Hilarious Comedy Theater and to tonight's performance of Please Underestimate Me. My name is Jason Rouse. I directed the show. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Yes. I feed off it, I feed off it, I feed off it. What are we doing here, folks? It's a good question. An unspecified number of years ago, Jay Fluelling was born unto the world and more or less has been living every day since then. He has been creating memories from situations and all sorts of things, and he's been sometimes writing them down. And what he did, unbeknownst to anybody, he wrote a book, if you can believe it. He wrote a book. It's called Please Underestimate Me. You're going to see a theme. You're going to see a theme. And like 7 months ago, he called me and said, Jason Rouse, we keep it formal. He said, Jason Rouse, I want to talk to you. I wrote a book. I want to do it on the stage. And I immediately said yes. Because I don't look before I leap. I just say yes, and I went right in. But I read the book, and I'm like, we can, of course, do something. So we spent some time. We adapted it. The goal was to do a solo show. And this is it. It's a solo show with 6 actors. Now, you would say, that's not a solo show. And I would say, you don't know what you're talking about. Everyone's wearing a J shirt. They're all J. It's one person. It's like French. It's like a French thing or Polish theater. It's something. I don't know what it is, but it's great and it works. And that's how we got you all in here today with a lie. But it's a good lie because it's Jay and he's wonderful. He's got all these great stories. It's a big life. He's lived a big life. He's like 6'9", I don't know. He's a big guy. And we needed these people in here to do it. And now you're probably looking at this guy and you're like, what's this joker doing? Well, he's not a joker. His name is Blake. He's a perfectly nice guy. There's a guy over there. His name's Cameron. He's got a guitar. But Blake, oh, there we go. Show off. Sometimes you go to plays and there'll be, like every couple performances in the run, they'll put an ASL interpreter down front. And so people who are deaf or hard of hearing can come in and enjoy the play. Well, literally the second thing Jay told me he wanted to do with this show was have an ASL interpreter on every show. And more than that, he wanted the interpreter to be a part of the show. Because instead of having someone like kind of look over here, let's put him where the action is. So this guy is actually our 7th cast member. He's in the show. So everywhere the action is, you're going to find Blake. So give him a round of applause. Not more than me, not more applause than you give me. He still has work to do. He still has work to do. It's not all applause for Blake. And also, how do you, Jason Rouse, director, how does a show like this happen financially? Well, you need money. I'm not going to lie to you. Shirts like this, hands like that. A lot of money. These are insured. Lloyd's of London. A cool $400. If anything breaks, we get $400. We want to thank Bull Run Distillery, Deschutes Brewing, Hollywood Grocery Outlet, and Bishop's Barbershop. They gave us some money. Please thank them with your applause. And by all means, patronize their businesses. I don't mean like to put them down or like talk down to them. I mean like buy a whiskey or a beer or get a haircut or buy, I don't know, Pop-Tarts, whatever you're into. Do it's up to you. Just do that for them, please, because they helped us. Blake, I'd like to ask you if you have anything you would like to say.
Yes.
Anyone?
Few quick announcements for deaf, hard of hearing audience members. A few signs that you need to know that are the characters' names. So the first character name sign is obviously Jay. And Jay's name sign is fabulous, and it is like this. Jay. Right? So can everyone do that with me? It's like this, like a Y. This is a Y in sign language. And then make it look like a J like this. Great. And you just do it from like your armpit, shoulder, just kind of like J. Right? Wonderful. The second name, sign character name, is a very, very complicated, hard to understand name. Jean-Francois Gravelet, aka Charles Blondin. I don't want to sign that over and over again. So we're going to abbreviate it. It's JFGAKACB. That's the second name sign. Third is a character named Anthony. And his name sign is like this, Anthony. Anthony here. And then the last name sign and character you need to know is a character named Mr. Fear, and his name sign is like this. So that's all you need to know. Enjoy the show.
Hey, how about that? There's a lovely gentleman in the booth, and his name is Dan, and he is the tech wizard on this show. And when I say wizard, he can't control the elements or, you know, mess with the fabric of time and space. But he does run a massive computer. He's made this show look fantastic. We want to make sure that we thank him when we're applauding in the show. Think about Dan and all his work. We've got a bunch of wonderful actors back there. And in the show, there are going to be moments, these are stories from Jay's life, and some of them are amusing, and some of them are touching, some of them are sad. And like all things, they run up against each other. And so we just invite you to, it's okay to laugh right after something that's been sad. Interpret it however you want, but feel free, let loose, because we're going to. This is a really fantastic show. I'm glad you're here. This is Please Underestimate Me. Have a good time.
Jogger. It's my preferred mode of exercise. I jog in my neighborhood because my neighborhood is my gym, and I jog at night because there's so many people in my gym during the day. Now, my neighborhood butts up against a freeway, and there's a sidewalk as a barrier, and on the other side of the sidewalk is a sizable rhododendron hedge. Now, in that rhododendron hedge, concealed from the eyes of society, is a healthy meth village. Yeah. Yes. Most of the meth village inhabitants, they never really bother me. They are, mostly out of sight, out of mind, as my mother used to say.
Oh, I never said that. I used to say it takes more than one to skin a cat.
Mom. Okay, where was I? Oh, yes. The meth village. You can't miss them. All the telltale smells and sounds. I mean, with these people, it's all about the angry yelling and the scratching and forcing cats to live on human shoulders. The worst!
I wasn't always a jogger. I used to be a bicyclist.
And by the way, this is me. Hey.
Hey. For 8 years, I exclusively biked. Then, I got a car. Then one day on a routine trip to my doctor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Flewelling. You've been diagnosed with car fat.
What?
Yes, car fat can happen to anyone.
It can?
After I got diagnosed with car fat, I started jogging. Now, I've been jogging for 4 years, and I can run 6 miles without stopping, which is great, because...
The meth village.
Now, one night, my peaceful run was disturbed by...
Damn! Oh, God! This guy was high as fuck, and he scared the living daylights out of me. And I just decided to run past him. But then I realized that he was pacing with me about a half a block back, making erratic gestures and yelling God knows what. I decided a quick left, a couple rights, a U-turn and a cul-de-sac, and boom! Now I was behind him.
Thank God, but once I was behind him, he became more erratic, and then I got scared, so I tried to make myself bigger and more foreboding. Once, I even pointed threateningly right at him and yelled, "You!" It was all fun and games for 8 blocks.
Oh, I hope you're not telling the story about torturing that poor drugs person.
I wasn't, Mom. Like you've never tortured anybody.
Oh, I've never tortured anyone. What I like to do is make 2 lasagnas, one for tonight and one for the freezer.
Mom!
I hope you're stretching before you're doing that.
I am. Finally, enough was enough. I needed to go home, so I decided I was going to have to pass this guy and just get it over with. But once we made eye contact, he could tell I wasn't a threat. What? I was just a citizen trying to get some exercise.
I'm a taxpayer! sir! To my surprise, he didn't look crazy. I mean, he just wanted to say something to me, and I didn't even give him the chance. Just like kept going. He didn't want to hurt me. He didn't want to scare me. I think that he just wanted someone to see him. I mean, I saw him, but I didn't see him. We both underestimated each other. When I was a kid, I made my own stilts. I taught myself how to walk on them, and all I heard was...
You'll break your neck.
Aren't you tall enough?
You are not Jean-Francois Gravelet, a.k.a. Charles Blondin, the greatest stilts walker of all time. You are embarrassing.
You look like an asshole.
For some reason, nobody thought that I could do it.
This was the moment when I realized the difference between me and others. Making anything out of the ordinary, like stilts, was unimaginable to most people.
Most of my friends have already begun to limit themselves. To them, stilts could have been learning a new language, coming out of the closet, or admitting you like Celine Dion. I was not going to limit myself.
So yeah, I love it when people underestimate me.
Please think that I will fail.
Please, lower your expectations for me.
Please assume I will quit.
Go ahead, count me out.
Go ahead, lower your expectations and count me out, because that will make it that much easier for me to prove you wrong.
And I can do it all while on stilts. Every day, all day, the world tells us no. So often that we tell ourselves no.
You can't do that.
Do not take that risk.
You are not Jean-Francois Gravelet, a.k.a. Charles Blondin, the greatest stilts walker of all time. You cannot wear leggings as pants.
You'll make a fool of yourself.
We are so good at telling ourselves and each other no that we don't even realize it. That's why I love improv. Improv is saying yes. It's a rule, actually. One of the main rules.
I always try to live my life in the yes mode. I don't know why I've always believed in myself. I mean, I've had setbacks and failures. Who hasn't? But I've never let those define me. You know who else didn't do that? Michael Jordan.
That's right. I said Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school's basketball team. Michael effing Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all times, was cut. He didn't let that define him. I mean, if you think about it, I guess we're all kind of Michael Jordan.
Here's your passport, Mr. Jordan. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you. Now, when I was 19 years old, I traveled Europe for an entire summer by myself. And I come from a small, conservative Christian family. And so when I announced that I was traveling abroad, all I heard was...
They hate America. They don't pasteurize the milk.
You don't speak the language.
You are not Jean-Francois Gravelet, a.k.a. Charles Blondin, the greatest stilts walker of all time.
That's where communism started. This was all nonsense. The culture of fear and doubt can suck my dick.
So I went to Europe, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the language, and this was at the height of the George W. Bush administration. And yeah, there was some anti-American sentiment. It didn't bother me, though. I told everybody I was Canadian.
What I had to do is to recognize that the world will never stop telling you no. That you are being underestimated every day you walk this earth. Find the power in being underestimated.
Didn't like to go on big vacations. We were camping people. We camped all the time, and to help out, my family got a camper trailer and a fierce Ford Aerostar to go anywhere we wanted. And we went to Crater Lake and Mount Hood, and we even went horse camping once. That was in the middle of my mother's stint as a horse person.
Of all the different types of animal people, horse people are the weirdest. You would think it would be the bird people, but no. It's the horse people. It all started when my mother rented out our unused pasture to horse owners. I met so many freaks coming out to care for their horses. This one whack job horse lady traded us riding lessons for pasture rental. So yeah, I can ride a horse, should the need arise.
Now, in the middle of my family's burgeoning horse dynasty, we were invited to go camping with Whack Job and her extended horse family. Driving up to the campground, I got stuck driving with Whack Job. You might think it's disrespectful to call her that, but...
You measure a horse in hands! How many hands are you, big guy?
This went on for 3 hours.
A healthy horse testicle weighs 8 ounces and my favorite color's pizza.
3 hours.
I haven't slept in 4 days. You might have to drive the night shift, sport.
I was 11 years old.
When we finally arrived, Whack Job's extended family were waiting for us. They too were a little extreme, but who isn't in the horse community? There were other kids there, but my sister and I didn't want to play with those scrappy, dirty-faced, very blonde children. And for horse people, they really didn't have very many horses. What they did have? Guns, mustaches, and scary-ass Rottweilers that only responded to German commands. I'd pretty much forgotten about that vacation, you know, repressed childhood memories and all, until years later, my mom ever so casually mentioned,
Oh, yeah, I probably should have told you. I'm so sorry, Jay, but most of those people were white supremacists. I'm so sorry. Do you want a sandwich?
The only vacation that we really went on wasn't even a real vacation.
Well, don't say that. We had fun. You kids had a blast in the ambulance.
Context, Dad. Okay, so my family one summer drove 2,000 miles in 2 brand new ambulances from Tennessee to Portland.
See, I was a paramedic who climbed the corporate ladder all the way to Vice President of AMR Medical Transportation, covering Washington, Oregon, and California, all without a college diploma.
Okay, geez, Dad, do you want a trophy? Because I could get you one.
To be fair, this was kid heaven. I got to spend the entire trip in the back of a brand new ambulance. I saved countless lives using CPR, started complicated IVs, delivered 10 babies, including 2 sets of triplets, and triage injuries like it was straight up Chicago Hope. I was not, however, allowed to turn on the emergency lights at any point, which sucked, but occasionally my dad let me get on the exterior microphone. A whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us no, or where to go, or tell us we were dreaming.
Now, near the Grand Canyon, after I was done belting out all the hits from Aladdin, we came around a corner and right onto a fresh 2-car collision. And one car was on its roof, and I remember seeing a man on the side of the road with blood covering his face. And another man that was unconscious was leaning up against him.
I remember making eye contact with the injured man as he watched 2 shiny brand new ambulances pulled up. Within a matter of seconds, I saw so many thoughts written all over his bloodied face.
Oh man, thank God that the ambulances are here. They got here fast. How'd they do that? I thought that we were dead.
And then, just as quickly, his thoughts turned to,
Wait, where are the paramedics? Why are there kids in those ambulances? Are we dead?
there was nothing we could do. We were just kids, and my dad wasn't licensed in Arizona. I mean, we weren't fully equipped with medicines and gauze. My mom had some Band-Aids, but that's about it.
I wasn't lawfully licensed to perform any paramedical duties other than to give a lawful cursory examination of the situation and the injured, which I did. No one was critical, as we call it, so we waited until the lawfully licensed paramedics arrived.
I had some Band-Aids.
You had some Band-Aids. You were always prepared.
Well, it's like I always say.
Always have Band-Aids in your purse.
You know, I joke, but my dad was like a superhero that day. I mean, he couldn't have helped everybody the way he would have liked to, but on that hot day in Arizona, he helped people who needed it, people who were injured and people who were scared. And I had never seen anything like that except for on television. And to see my father do that live in front of me, I mean, I had been underestimating him for years, and I didn't even know it. Speaking of childhood memories, one of my earliest childhood memories was being surrounded by a circle of adults that were praying and speaking in tongues. Remember that conservative, small Christian family that I came from? It was that kind. The kind where people spoke and prayed in tongues, but it all sounded vaguely Italian? Yeah. This circle of adults, they were praying and speaking in tongues, and they were trying to persuade me to join in on the fun.
Let the Holy Spirit in, Jay, and let him speak through you.
I'm 5 years old.
I knew that the only way to get out of this was to give them what they wanted, and a star was born.
I am thinking it. I'm not thinking in tongues. This is just a show and I like attention. Blah, 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 blah. I'm a gay man. I am 5 years old and even I know this is bullshit.
I didn't want to break up this cult ritual, so I just faked it. They wanted the Holy Spirit to give them a number, and I gave it. Even then, I knew how to read a crowd.
Spaghetti, tortellini, and Liza Minnelli! Liza Minnelli! Liza Minnelli!
Testify! Okay, so maybe it wasn't strictly on point, but that's how I remember it, damn it. And look how cute I was. But what's not cute is what happens in small, underfunded Christian schools. I mean, where do I even begin? Okay, so you know how it's exciting as a student to celebrate your birthday in school? Well, at my school, it wasn't always amazing to celebrate your birthday.
Attention class, it's Sarah's 8th birthday today. Can I get a show of hands? Oh, Kyle, Tom.
Since Sarah was turning 8, our teacher chose 8 students to come up front. Why, you ask? To give her a spanking with a yardstick.
And Jay.
I don't know which was worse. The spanking itself, or waiting quietly while a spank-crazy crowd of second graders competed for yardstick privileges. Now, to be chosen as a spanker, that was coveted. But that last slot, that last one though, that was the most prized. I don't know why they made us do this. Did they do this at other Christian schools? Did they do this in public schools?
We were children. We didn't know that this was wrong. I mean, how could we? This public display of violence was celebrated and encouraged at our school and our church, which was the same thing. I now know that religious institutions rely on their followers for absolute loyalty and 100% submission. I was able to transcend the violence and misogyny and dogma that I was spoon-fed as a child. But not everybody was so lucky. I mean, Sarah just wanted a cupcake for her birthday. So many people that I grew up with, we ate and we breathed misogyny. It's pretty fucked up. I mean, take for example, my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Fear. Mr. Fear had been teaching forever, and he was a giant asshole. His real name was Fear. I mean, he spelled it a little differently, F-E-I-R, but it was pronounced Fear. How perfect is that? He was supposed to teach history, but he mainly taught his own totally fucked opinions.
Just because everybody is allowed to vote doesn't mean that everybody should be allowed to vote.
And then there's this one.
The sexes aren't equal. Can my wife lift a refrigerator? No. Should she be able to? You've answered your own question.
And this one's my favorite.
If Jesus didn't want us to own this land, he wouldn't have sent Christopher Columbus over to conquer the Indians.
Mr. Fear was always singling me out for what he thought were my weaknesses. One time in computer class, how do you open Netscape?
What?
On the desktop, how do you open Netscape?
Sit on your hands.
What?
Sit on your hands. Now ask your question again. He can't do it. He can't do it, folks. He can't do it without using his hands. What is it with you and those hands? You got some problems, don't you?
Now that's totally fucked up, right? I mean, I can totally talk without using my hands.
One day, Mr. Fear was lecturing us on the Declaration of Independence.
Did you know that by signing the Declaration of Independence, you were signing your own death warrant? Signing it meant that you were breaking with the King of England and that he would kill you. But the signers knew that God's law was greater than any threat of murder by a British king. And they knew that God wanted them to form one nation under him with men in charge. Why, they didn't hesitate to sign.
Everything was God's law with this guy. So then he asked the whole class, which of us would have signed the Declaration of Independence? And when it came to my turn, I said, no, I would not sign the Declaration of Independence.
Jay, I know that when you said you wouldn't have signed the Declaration of Independence, that in your heart, you know you would have. You really want to be different, don't you? But we both know you would have signed it, isn't that right? You would have upheld God's law, wouldn't you, Jay?
At that age, I did not realize how manipulative that was. I thought that he had just misunderstood. So I said, no, I would not sign the Declaration of Independence. I wouldn't die for this country or any other country.
Mr. Fear thought that he could get me to doubt myself. It never occurred to him that I wouldn't go along with his program or with God's law. I won't sit on my hands, and I won't sit on my beliefs. And so what if I can't talk without using my hands? They're gorgeous, and I'm an entertainer. hated Anthony. I hated Anthony!
You're just jealous, Jay.
You're goddamn right I was. Anthony was good at everything. He was really smart. He was a star athlete. He was a really amazing artist, and he was really funny. Those last two cut particularly deep, because drawing and being funny were the only two things that I was good at. They were the only cards I was playing with. He also had red hair. That's not why I hated him, but it didn't help.
He even went through puberty before me. I remember Anthony raising his hand in class and I spied a fresh shock of orange armpit hair. My jealousy seized in that moment. Later that night, I stared at my own inadequate naked armpit in the mirror. Everywhere I went, Anthony was there to do it better than me. Finally, one summer, my family moved. I was going to a new neighborhood and a new school away from Anthony. I was overjoyed. My first morning in our new house, I went outside to survey my newfound land, cul-de-sac. And what did I see to break my goddamn spirit just across the sack? Fucking Anthony! Apparently everyone was moving house that summer. What followed was a series of Nazi prank phone calls, strategically dickish pizza deliveries, and just general teenage mayhem, first directed at only Anthony. Then my rage was unleashed onto others. Much later, my former classmates came up to me and told me stories of awful things I had done. It was kind of shocking, and it pushed me into this phase of self-reflection. I started to think about some of the awful choices I had made as a teenager, and I had so many to choose from. The tales of teenage Jay were that of an awful, horrendous person, the person I didn't want to be. I was a bully. I tortured people. And I kept coming back to how much I hated Anthony. Why did I hate this dude? What had he actually done to me? I spent so much time and energy on hating him, and he had never even wronged me. Oh my God. I didn't hate Anthony. I was in love with Anthony!
Deep down, I always knew that I was gay. I'm such a cliche. Remember the hands? My penchant for dramatic religious performance? Aladdin? But my whole culture, my church, my family, my friends, they all told me that this was wrong.
So I made the choice to hide who I was, to call people fags, to gender police anyone who read as a little more fruity than me. I became the bully. I told you, I'm a cliche. Methinks the lady doth protest too much, and this lady protested a lot.
I'm sorry for all the awful things I did as a teenager. I perpetuated hate and pain because I was afraid and ashamed. And I made others afraid and ashamed. And I probably missed out on a lot of hot, gay teenage makeout sessions because I was too busy being a dick.
Maybe I wouldn't be so angry or ashamed if I was raised in a different environment. Maybe my freewheeling parents went to Burning Man every summer, or watched R-rated movies, or didn't care about God's law. But that's not what happened. I had to evolve on my own. just never have. I mean, it's not like they don't know, they're not stupid. I just don't believe in coming out. I don't think it needs to be that dramatic. I mean, who's making these grand statements anyway? I mean, nobody's standing up at a wedding and they're proclaiming that they have all the answers.
Attention, everyone. I am heterosexual.
May I have your attention? I have an announcement. I've never seen Star Wars.
I have to make this statement. Jean-Francois Gravelet, aka Charles Blondin, is not the greatest stilts walker of all time.
So, me and my parents, we just never talked about it. Except for once. I was 20 years old, and I had left my email up on the family computer, and I came home to an email printed out and lying on my bed waiting for me. It contained some mild innuendos, but nothing overtly damning, just some sassy shit. But even though there was nothing concrete, I was terrified to talk to my parents. I was ashamed. Outside of the home, I was out, I was proud, I was militant about who I was standing up to people. But despite all that bravado, I cowered in front of my parents.
Jay, are you a homosexual?
No.
Jay, if you are, it's all right.
We talked to Pastor Mike, and he said that there's a camp that you can go to.
You go in one way, you come out another.
I'm not gay.
You come out fixed, Jay.
A lot of kids your age have the same problem, and they go to this camp, and they have a great time, and it works, Jay, it works.
I can't believe he said that. My dad was actually talking about conversion therapy. How could my loving and intelligent father really believe in something as silly and scary as conversion therapy?
Because if you are that way, you don't take control over it. Jay, I will be forced.
We'll be forced to stop paying for college.
What?
You'll have to move out
And what?
Just tell us.
Okay, my personal business is none of your business, and we're never going to talk about this again. I'm not gay.
I lied. I lied and it felt great. My parents got to hear what they needed to hear. And that lie saved us all from making some ugly choices. We never spoke of my sexuality again.
Jay is a man unto himself. Growing up, Jay didn't need other people to entertain him. Many times I would find him in the backyard, caught up in an adventure, wearing costumes, commanding huge armies in battle. Or another time, he dressed the dog up like a dragon, and he, of course, was the brave and fierce knight. He was a pretty self-contained kid, intelligent and positive, pleasant, funny, comfortable on stage and in that old spotlight. This is the Jay that I know. My father was a missionary and a pastor, and I remember shortly before he passed a conversation he had with Jay. Jay was telling his grandpa that, in a way, he was following in his footsteps, entertaining people by telling stories, discussing social themes, much like his grandpa had done from the pulpit. Sure, they come at it from different perspectives, but that's what makes JJ. That's what makes him my son. I'm so proud of him. He's my son.
The life of an entertainer is many things. Amazing nights on stage in the spotlight, and searching for seasonal employment to pay rent. Amazing nights on stage don't always come with a paycheck. And one of the weirdest seasonal positions I ever had was with the military. Kind of.
You know that thing on the front of all military uniforms? You know that weird block of colors over the left breast pocket? Those are called ribbon racks. And did you know that all those tiny, colorful rectangles actually mean something? They do.
Who knew? A ribbon rack is a soldier's resume in ribbon form. Now, there are two ways to get your ribbon racks. One, through the military, which takes forever, or two, through a private civilian company.
One of those private civilian companies is in Little Milwaukee, Oregon. Again, who knew? I had a buddy of mine that worked there, and one time he got me a job. That's him.
Of all the positions a seasonal employee can be assigned to, I was assigned the prestigious position of ribbon rack builder. I was tested to see if I had the necessary crafting skills to make ribbon racks. Being a student of the arts, an expert with an X-Acto knife, and an all-around boss-ass crafting bitch, I made the cut. At my peak, I could make 20 or so ribbon racks a day. Even now, at a glance, I can tell what a soldier has done in the military based on their ribbons.
Oh, you always win at cribbage. You love a good hot dish. And you are from Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Now, there was only 3 types of people who worked at this place. 1, rural riffraff. They made up about 60% of the workforce, and Little Milwaukee, Oregon was the big city to these folks. Now, number 2, ex-military. A lot of times veterans would get out of the service and they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. And so they'd get a job at this company. It was a good job. It had a military tie-in. And they made up about 20% of the workforce. Now the last group, number 3, queers! I was not expecting this. And these weren't just queers, these were the queerest people on the planet. I'm not exaggerating, these were the gayest people I have ever been around.
Super sassy gay dudes, slinging sewing machines, an army of butch lesbians holding down the shipping department, and so many transgender people just everywhere. It was awesome.
Here I was, worried about fitting in at my workplace, and on my first day, it was like walking into Xanadu. Not the rough and tumble environment I was expecting.
To my surprise, all of these people worked really well together. I have no idea how or why this 3-way slice of life worked so well. The ex-military, the riffraff, and the super gays. But they did!
Now, it wasn't queer utopia all the time. There was this one ex-military manager who was particularly difficult. He was loud and disgusting. He slammed energy drinks all day and proudly belched after each one. His favorite phrases included,
Whatever the fuck it is, just don't fucking do that. God damn it, you're about to do that fucking thing I told you not to fucking do. Why the fuck can't you fucking stop, asshole? Don't fucking do that! Fuck!
You know, I'm a comedian, and I love swearing, and I love a casual work environment. But this was too much, I mean, even for me.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, we're out of fucking military defense fucking ribbons! Fucking shitty poop fuck!
I even complained about this manager to my buddy who got me the job, and he said,
Don't worry about it, that's all for show. I mean, he transitioned, what, like 2 years ago now?
What?
This wasn't just an ex-military man. This was an ex-military trans man. All of that revolting bravado was gender performance. Now, this dude's history was none of my business, but I was floored. And my buddy felt horrible that he had accidentally outed his coworker, and I felt awful that my manager thought he had to act this way in order to be seen as manly. From that moment on, I felt compassion for him, even when he yelled at me.
Goddamn fucking shitty fuck! God fucking yabba fucking dabba fucking do!
Performer, I believe in giving 100% at all times. So if you are ever successfully rescued from an airplane-related disaster in Anchorage, Alaska, you can thank me and my transcendent performance skills.
Allow me to explain. For many years, I had to be CPR first aid certified for my job, and I had to retake the class every year to stay certified. At the beginning of each class, the instructor would always ask, who would like to volunteer to be a victim so that your classmates can practice your new skills? I would immediately raise my hand because I had learned that one of my favorite things to do was to play the victim for my classmates who needed to practice CPR, flip a body, or drag a body correctly out of a burning building. Most people who play the victim will sort of help out a little bit, to avoid being touched by a stranger. They'll flip over, but not me. My goal was to commit to being 100% dead weight. I loved their surprised look as I didn't help as they tried to lift my 250-pound body.
So imagine my excitement when I was on the phone with my friend Marissa talking about my upcoming trip to Alaska when she said,
Oh, by the way, I went ahead and signed us up to be volunteer victims in a plane crash simulation at Ted Stevens International Airport. Are you down?
This is why we are friends. Thank you. Yes, I am down.
In no time at all, I was in Alaska and we were at the airport. Right from the beginning, it was a dream come true. I had been assigned a broken left tarsal. I was going to be one of the walking wounded. Now, we had been instructed to not speak or respond in English because they wanted to simulate a crash from another country's airline. Oh, hell yes! I love performing in other languages.
Plane crash survival tip. First of all, act the part and take it seriously.
They didn't need to tell me twice.
Yeah. Plane crash survival tip. Do not let yourself be left on the plane after it crashes, because the rescuers will put out the fire first, rescue all the people who landed outside the plane, and then get to you, at which point you will be dead. Or acting.
We get into position on the tarmac between active runways. Planes are landing and taking off around us, and God only knows what the people on those planes think is happening. There are lifeless-looking bodies on the ground, aimless survivors walking around, and a big old piece of an airplane is partially on fire.
I was assigned to be outside the plane among the walking wounded, the dead, and the real unclaimed luggage of the Ted Stevens International Airport. I happily assumed my position and waited to be rescued.
Most of the people that were playing victims were not really committing to be plane crash victims, which was really pissing me off. But I was not going to let that stop the J train. I committed to being a realistic, non-English speaking, broken left tarsal.
The cops were really into this training exercise and taking it seriously. The firefighters were not. They slumped onto the scene. They broke character. They even broke the fourth wall.
Now, I would never break character. But what I wanted to tell him in this moment was now I understood that in Alaska, the heroes aren't the firefighters. They're the bush pilots. You know, I first heard about the bush pilots when I was a kid. My mom...
I never said anything about bush pilots, JJ. That just sounds dirty. You know who the real heroes are? The firefighters.
Mom! Anyway, these non-hero asshole firefighters just pretty much just stopped participating. They were pouting and complaining on their way through this exercise. They were making no effort whatsoever to save anyone. I was giving a performance of a lifetime. And these jackasses were making jokes, just letting us bleed to death.
Yeah. These guys are such jackasses. You should see this one guy over here. What a fool.
He's gonna see this guy over here put on a show. It's time to let the Holy Spirit speak through me. I'm a shower, bella, prima donna, broken ankle, pick me up, but I'm an ankle, a shower.
Wrong with this
I'm an ankle, pick me up.
What are you doing?
Pick me up, put it back into it.
What I said about the church. The Holy Spirit can come in handy.
At a summer camp called Island Lake. It was a Christian extreme sports camp for kids. You can probably imagine what that was like. As a counselor, I was stuck in the cabin with a bunch of elementary-aged children, and at lights out, sleep deprivation was just part of the deal. But the real problem was that lights out, they wanted to hear scary stories. And not just any scary story, they wanted to hear the legendary Mountain Lake Jake story. I didn't know any scary stories, I mean, except for the ones that are in the Bible. And I'm an improviser, but coming up with a good scary story for kids is actually really hard. And plus, who the hell is Mountain Lake Jake? So after a couple nights of them begging to hear this story, I gave it my best shot. All right, once upon a time, there was a local boogeyman named Mountain Lake Jake, and he came onto camp, and he was flicking boogers on people, and giving wet willies, and wedgies, and then the camp director was like, "You don't belong here," and they kicked him out, and then everybody was safe, and they went to bed.
You even heard a scary story?
Nobody was impressed. I was heckled by 10-year-olds. It was awful. Word got out that I had told this terrible Mountain Lake Jake story the next day, and I was humiliated and frustrated and vowed revenge. So the next night, I decided to do something a little different. All right, do you want to hear the real Mountain Lake Jake story?
If you know how to tell it.
Yeah, okay, get your flashlights out and your shoes on. We're going for a walk.
What?
Yeah, little did they know that before we went to the cabin that night, I went to my other friend who was a counselor. Hey, Glenn, what's up with this Mountain Lake Jake thing?
Oh, yeah, I heard you really fucked that story up last night. Oh, okay. It's not just one story. You kind of just talk about whatever you want. I like to tell stories about, like, farts or blood or pus.
Well, I didn't have a wealth of reservoir to come from, but I had seen one rated R movie at this point. So I was ready to let them have it. They didn't think I had it in me. Challenge accepted. All right, this is a good spot. Everybody take a seat. Yeah, this is good. Right here. Yeah. All right. Once upon a time, there was a camper named Jake, just like you. And he liked arts and crafts, specifically needle and thread. Boring. Is it boring, Marcus? The other campers thought it was boring too, and they teased poor Jake. And they made fun of him for his beautiful gift and the beautiful garments that he would make for himself and for counselors. One day, all of those campers thought it'd be really funny to steal all of Jake's beautiful garments and burn them. The next morning, Jake was so distraught that he ran into the woods and he was never seen again. And shortly after that, a camper disappeared. And then another. And then another. This went on for years. They found pits all around this camp. Deep pits. And one night all the campers were gathered around the campfire, and out of the woods in the flickering light came Mountain Lake Jake. And he was wearing a suit. A skin suit. A missing camper skin suit. Yeah, those pits that they found around the camp, those were for the missing campers. He would throw them at the bottom of the pits and he would starve them and he would say, "It puts the lotion on it." The lotion would keep their skin nice and subtle, and he would starve them, and their skin would be loose and flabby, good for the trimming and the sewing. Yeah, he liked the plump kids. Some of you look kind of plump. Make easy work from your flesh. Should we go see one of those pits? No. I ended the story with Mountain Lake Jake is still out there. He's out there tonight. And he's looking for you. He's looking to make skin suits out of your fleshy body. He's looking for a size 8. You're all a size 8. Don't go to the bathroom tonight. He's out tonight. The end. Boom. We walked back to the cabin in silence. I got into my bunk and I fell right asleep. I slept like a baby. It was so nice. When I woke up in the morning, the first thing that I noticed that was all my campers were doubled up in their bunks, asleep in a petrified position. It was like looking at the ash bodies of Pompeii. The second thing I noticed is the overwhelming smell of urine. My campers had wet the bed on each other. I guess there was no way in hell that they were going to go out not with Mountain Lake Jake looking for skin suits from fleshy campers. I had scared the literal piss out of my cabin. Not my best moment, but to this day one of my most impressive. And bonus, for the rest of the week they didn't want to hear any scary stories and they went right to bed. soccer team. I have for years. It's really great. We play in a recreational soccer league on Saturdays, and we play with a bunch of other regular teams, straight people. And you know, my team is very chill. You know, it's not very important for us to win, and I don't like playing with people who think that, and I don't like playing with people who are yelling at you from the sidelines. It's just, we're just there to have fun. And all the other teams in my league, they share the same ethos, all except for one. There's this one team, and it's just full of aggressive bros. They're just a bunch of assholes, and they play really aggressively, and more so than what is necessary. And we're playing them one day, and they're playing rough, and it's just a little too rough, and there's this negative energy coming off them, and there's this one guy in particular, he slams into me, and I slam him right back, you know, and that's fine. I'm a different person on the soccer field. And so he fell down, and when he got up, only so that I could hear, he said, "I didn't know that a faggot could play so tough." That's when it bothered me. And the next time that he came for me, I threw an elbow right in his throat. And he went down, and he went down hard. And people were stunned, and the game stopped, and everything, you know. And I stood over him, and I helped him up, and I looked him right in the face, and I said nothing. He never fucked with me again. He underestimated me, a 6'4", 250-pound gay man. And if there's anything that I've learned in this life is that when I am underestimated, I will rise to the challenge. There's no other option. It can be as simple as standing up for what is right, and it can be throwing an elbow. That last one, I learned from my mother.
Oh, I never said that.
Hey, give a big round of applause to our director, Jason
Ladies and gentlemen, at the top of the show, I had one real job, and that was to give this T-shirt to someone, and I didn't do it.
What does it look like?
I don't know. Because clearly I don't listen to simple instructions. Oh, it's nice. It's a Please Underestimate T-shirt for sale over there. But I want very much for you to have this one. But you, lady, you go over there and you buy one.
One more round of applause for Jason Rouse. Hey, thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. A couple quick announcements. So, the book is over there. You can buy it. There's some buttons. Grab a button. There's shirts. Buy a shirt. They're only $15. It supports us. It supports the cast. And if you want me to sign it, I'll sign it. Also, we are going to be having family photos right here, right now. You can get a picture with the cast. It'll go up on our Please Underestimate Me Facebook page, and you can share it and tell all your friends about it. If you liked the show, please tell your friends on Facebook. If you didn't like it, tell them on MySpace. That's fine. But who is going to be our first audience member to come on stage and take a photo with the class?
Me!
Yeah!